You see this? You see these guns? If you're on YouTube, you can see me. I'm flexing. Look at these guns. Look. Look at those deltoids. Look at that posterior deltoid, girl. Look. Look. I've been working hard on this. Okay, that's not what this episode is about, but I am really proud of how my arms have shaped up over the years. And women are asking, Anna, how can I get arms like that? Well, you can get arms like your own best, strong, shapely guns. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes consistency, and it takes a strategic strength training program like we do in Rock That Fitness. This episode is sponsored by your very own Rock That Fitness. Yes. Rock That Fitness. And today I want to remind you that we opened up the priority list for you. If you have been thinking about, you've been on the fence and you're like, I need to join Rock That Fitness membership. Well, guess what? We're going to be doing open registration again in the spring. It's coming before you know it. And I'm telling you, girl, you got to be on the priority list, which the deadline to get on this list is March 28th. But don't delay because I'm going to be keeping in touch with you on this list. I'm going to be keeping in touch with you. You can keep in touch with me, and you will be the first to know when the doors open for Rock That Fitness membership coming for spring 2025 to do things like you never thought possible, girl. We're going to get you, help you achieve the goals, get you results. This kind of result, lean, strong and lean. That's what we do. We help women over 40 get strong and lean. All right. Get on the list. Go to the show notes. You will see it there. Had to let you know because I just opened up the priority list this past week. And so get on it. All right, girl. Today, I am so pumped about this episode. You are going to love this. Let me tell you. I know everybody's talking about it. They've been talking about it for a long time. Creatine. If you're a woman over 40, do you need to take creatine? Yes or no? We're going to get into all the details with my very special guest, Halsie Peek. Love this friend of mine that I met back in December this is another friend I met at the Business by Design, the BBD conference I went to in December. Halsie is a registered nurse. She specializes in functional medicine and holistic healing. She has her own testimony of healing from cancer. She's just truly an amazing woman, inside and out. And we talked all things creatine today. I hope we answer all the questions that you might be having about it. We even got deep today. Got in on some deep level of, I don't know, deep spiritual kind of stuff towards the end. You're going to love it. I had so much fun recording this episode with Halsie. Halsie, if you're listening, thank you so much, girl. You rock. So let's get into this. Let's do it. Hey, Halsie Peek. So freaking excited to have you on Rock That Fitness with Anna Rockstar podcast. Welcome to the show, girl.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here. It's so great. I'm telling you, the universe has been so beautiful, so kind, so generous to me these past few weeks. And having you as a guest on the podcast is what a treat. Like, I didn't even see it coming, girl. I didn't even see it coming. And I'm so glad for this. It's
Yay.
so funny. I want to tell our listeners, our Rockstar ladies, this is Halsie Peek. She is truly a gift. I got to meet her at the Business by Design conference back in December, and we just clicked. We hit it off. She's a registered nurse. She has a specialty in functional medicine, and so you can just imagine we geeked out talking about comprehensive blood panels and all of the systems and functions of the body, and just a wonderful conversation because, well, we're nursey like that, and we're excited about this. So before we get into our topic, which is really going to be the bomb, Halsie, thanks for being here. I can't thank you enough for your time. And I just would like it if you could introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. Tell us all the details, girl. We want to know you.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So yeah, my name is Halsie Peek. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon area. I've been a nurse for 10 years, bedside nurse for 5, almost 6 years in Portland, worked in surgical oncology and a bunch of other little areas you always kind of float to. And then
Yeah.
I started travel nursing. So I've done a vast array of units and places around the country for the last
What a
5
dream. That's a dream
years.
job. That's a dream job, I think, for a
It
nurse.
was it was fun. I learned so much about myself. I learned
Yeah.
about all these places all over the country. Got to see beautiful, beautiful areas and so many cultures too. I mean, we have a huge country with a lot of
Yeah.
different types of people in
Yes, we do.
it. Yeah, so I have been a bedside nurse for 10 years, as I mentioned, and I've always had an interest in holistic medicine. It actually started back right when I graduated nursing school, really. I was diagnosed with cancer and I was
Mm.
opened to the world of holistic treatments,
Wow. Wow.
medicine, and just, I mean, so much more than what I ever learned in nursing school. So that
Mm.
opened the
Yeah.
door for me and I never looked back. So I've been constantly learning, constantly just like integrating my life into the world of holistic treatments, medicine, holistic lifestyle and living and detoxing. And here I am, started my own functional medicine practice with
Yeah.
experience in that and health coaching, and it's beautiful. I absolutely love what we can do for people in this space.
Awesome. That's wonderful. What else do we want to know? So you're from Oregon, right?
Hmm.
Is that where your family is? Are you
Yeah,
live? So you're living in Colorado now.
I
Are
am.
you
I
like,
moved to Colorado. I love it. I essentially took a travel nurse job here into the most random rural Southwest Colorado. My friends were like, "You're
oh
taking a
man.
night shift, half the pay, old EMR technology. Like, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm being called to this place."
That's
From
great.
I had worked in New Hampshire and Vermont before that, so I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm so excited, and then I ended up meeting my partner here and never leaving.
Oh wow. That's awesome. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. You're in a great place. That's beautiful. You're in a great place in a lot of different ways, and I'm super happy and super excited about for you and our connection, which just letting our Rockstar ladies know that it's important to surround yourself, be connected with people who lift you up, encourage you, push you, and that's what Halsey and I do in this space. We push each other in the
Yeah.
realm of yeah, just doing what we do business wise online, helping women with their health and their fitness and stuff. So,
Mhm.
well, Halsey, I'm excited to get into this topic because it is a hot topic and women of all ages, not just women, but everybody, it's kind of a buzz. It's a buzz thing to talk about creatine. And so we're going to touch on some really important things here having to do with creatine. And I'll tell you, I'll be the first to admit I did try some creatine. I don't know, it was a year ago, 2 years ago, a while back. I was taking the recommended amount, doing it regularly. I didn't have any adverse effects. I didn't necessarily personally feel like it was either benefiting me or not benefiting me. So I stopped taking it, but I took it for several months. I don't know if it was 6 months to a year or something like that. But I got off of it when I found out that when I was like, I just got off of it. And then later on, I think I got off of it because I thought I was like holding water on my body and I don't know if I really was, to be honest. I think it was just kind of like I heard that it does. And I think sometimes those kind of things can get stuck in your mind. And so I was like, you know what? I don't think I need this. I want to try to do everything naturally. And that's what I coach and that's what I train is that we don't need to have a supplement unless you need a supplement. And then later, months later, as I had gotten some blood work done, I found out my doctor was like, you don't, do you take creatine? I'm like, no. And he said, you have high levels of creatine. And I was like, well, there you go. I don't need it. So anyway, I just know that there's a lot of questions out there, and I want to provide education and information on this particular very safe supplement. And I want to give as much information as we can to women so that they can make a decision, an informed decision on whether or not they want to try some creatine. So, why don't we first just give a basic, simple definition of what is creatine?
Yeah, so creatine is a nitrogen containing compound and it's made up by amino acids. So it's naturally occurring in our body. That's why you go to your lab and you get your lab test drawn and they talk about it. So it's naturally occurring from arginine, glycine, and methionine amino acids. And we store most of our creatine in our muscle, which is why it started out as this performance enhancing type of supplement. And now we're starting to see, wow, performance enhancing has actually kind of opened this bridge to like, what else can it do for our bodies? So now we're seeing it in a lot of research studies across the lifespan in women's health, in brain health, in gut health, perimenopause, postmenopause, bone health. So it's really popping up in a lot of areas, including pregnancy. That's a big one I just find just so fascinating too.
That's interesting. And actually, I'll tell you that one of the biggest reasons I
I didn't get
started
that.
taking
Could you
creatine
try
was
again?
because, oh, you gotta love her. She's,
Little
yeah,
Siri.
yeah, she likes to interrupt. um, so because I had read some studies saying that it had benefits like for cognition. And that was one of the reasons because I knew that I was in menopause. And I was like, well, let's see if this is going to help me in my cognitive space. And I kind of felt like it was giving me some more focus and alertness when I was taking it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, that was one of the reasons for cognitive function for myself. But I know that it can, and I know that I think what's happening is that women or anybody is they're thinking take creatine to help you with your muscles, to build muscle, to get stronger, those kind of things. So, but I know that there's a lot of different benefits. So let's talk about, so the things that I want to touch on is that I want to touch on what does it do for our muscles? I want to talk about, does it cause weight gain? This is a big one because, women, we don't want to weigh more and we don't want to look bulky. I want to touch on that. I also want to talk about how creatine may or may not help with menopause symptoms. We can talk about that. How should we take creatine? Like exactly how much and what type? What do we need to be looking for? And then is it safe for long-term use and does it affect your kidney? So those are the things that I'm hoping that we can fit in to this time together. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the concept and the idea of how creatine can help with building muscle, with muscle strength, and does it cause us to gain weight if we're taking it on a regular basis?
Yeah. So creatine is stored in the muscle. We naturally synthesize and produce this in our bodies. About 50% of what we need, we make, and the other 50% we need to consume through our diet. So that is where we are getting enough of it either through our diet or we're getting maybe a little bit less. And so we store it in our muscles. Men actually store a bit more than we do. We store just about 30 to 40% less than men, which means we need to uptake through our diet a little bit more than they would need to. And so it has been seen to, so people think that it like makes you swollen, makes you big, makes you bulky. It doesn't really make you bulky. It actually helps with more endurance, muscle attractions, muscle contractions is what I'm saying. And like our fast twitch muscles, right? So our sprinting, our endurance, our agility. And so that's where we're seeing a lot of its benefits. Let's see, your question was
Like, does it help you build muscle? Because that's one of
build
the things.
muscle.
Like women over
Mm-hmm.
40, I mean, obviously we're losing muscle mass, and they're thinking,
Mm-hmm.
I need to take creatine so I can build muscle. So, does it help us build muscle after the age of 40?
Studies are showing that it's helping you maintain and build a little bit of muscle, but it's not an adjunct to make you like get bulky. So it's really
Mm-hmm.
helping sustain the muscle development you are currently doing with your program. And they're even using it in older people, like elderly, with a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
resistance training. It's helping them keep muscle because our muscle synthesis is so important for our glucogen storage and all these other processes in the body.
Yeah. And when you
Mm-hmm.
say how we're getting it in our diet, I'm imagining that it has something to do with, at least for me, I do get optimal amounts of protein. And I say optimal because a lot of women think, oh, I'm getting plenty. They don't even know how much protein they're taking in. But I believe because I am getting optimal amounts of protein in my diet. Is that what you mean when you're saying getting the uptake of creatine in our diet through protein?
Correct.
Yeah.
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 So most of our protein or most of the creatine that we obtain through diet is through red meat or fish. And so
Okay.
if you're not consuming as much protein in a day, or specifically red meats and fish, you're maybe not going to obtain much creatine. So a steak, like a large steak, I think a pound of red meat contains 2 to 5 grams of creatine in there. And that's
Wow.
about the recommended dose. So if you're eating
I
a
see.
quantity of red meat or protein per day that has a high level of creatine in it, you're probably getting enough, which is
Got
maybe
it.
what when you went and got your labs checked and you were on the high end of normal for your creatinine clearance, you were like, well, it's probably from your diet intake
Yeah,
and
probably
protein.
from fish. Yeah, that makes sense. That's great. And the bulky thing. So why are we concerned about that? Like why is that even a conversation? What are we concerned about in terms of like water retention?
I think if you take a lot, and a long time ago when there were poor quality creatines out there, they were making people more swollen, but it's not something we're really seeing much. So you can build a little bit of water retention in your muscle because your muscle is holding on to the creatine to be used. It's like holding on to extra ATP and extra energy, which gives you
Mm-hmm.
that stamina for endurance and that fast twitch muscle contractions. So it's going to bulk your muscle just a little bit, but it really isn't going to make you bulky and really swollen. If you're getting really swollen, I would really check the quality of the creatine and how much you're consuming.
Yeah, and what other
They
ingredients might be in there?
Exactly. And the dose. So a lot of times people are recommending loading doses, which can
Mm-hmm.
make your body like react a little bit. Like anything, if you're going to do a loading dose, you're probably consuming 4 times, 6 times the amount than what you need. Your body's going to have some little reactions or adjustments to that, in which
Yeah.
you would become a little swollen.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute because I do want to
Mm-hmm.
kind of dive into the dosaging of it. But Um, I think what I'm like, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that when when we have adequate or optimal amounts of creatine in our diet, or if we're taking it supplementally, we got to make it very clear. This is not something you can see an increase of weight on the scale, but that does not equate to fat gain. But that weight gain that you may see on the scale is simply your muscles are just taking in this, they're holding on to more water because of the creatine, which helps them function better in, like you said, like in their endurance. Kind of fills out the muscle because it's absorbing more water, right? Is that what
Correct.
you're
Yes,
saying?
absolutely.
Which can help with our muscle definition, leanness, and having that, what women want, that more lean physique, strong physique, looking physique. But of course, we have to shed the fat to show that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So let's talk about menopause and how creatine could affect. How does it directly, using creatine? How can it help in what ways for women in menopause?
So, a research article in 2021 was talking about how using creatine helps sustain your muscle definition because, as we know, during that time, our muscle fat shifts. We gain more fat and we lose more muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So, it helps maintain the muscle mass that you had prior to these hormone shifts. It also helps with all of the internal organs, which is really, really big in this time frame. It helps with your gut lining, which helps with your hormone synthesis and hormone excretion, so that you're not holding on to too much estrogen and you're really processing through those hormones, not holding on to them, which is important. It's helping with cognition, processing, memory function, even things with like brain injuries with anybody who's had like previous injuries. It
Mm-hmm.
can really help refine those. It's actually working on a neurotransmitter level, so the synaptic gaps between neurons, and that is
Hmm.
pretty fascinating.
Oh yeah, I get into that,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Yeah.
that. So I guess when we hear women are, dealing with menopausal symptoms, I don't even like to call them symptoms because it's a natural progression of aging as a woman. It's not like you're having an illness. Menopause is just another phase of life. But what I hear you saying, if we want to put this in like layman's terms, women are talking about having brain fog and fatigue and that kind of stuff, and it can help. It can help with that, right? And mood and cognition function.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
the thing, though, that I think I want to talk about is how we don't necessarily need to jump straight into the supplements. You and I were talking about this before, not today, but the other day, about how, instead of jumping into all the supplements, let's work on the basics. Are we doing the basics? And I know this is like your expertise. So what would you say? What would you say to the woman that's over 40 or in menopause or dealing with perimenopause, all of those kind of things, and she's like, I think I just need creatine. What would you say to her?
Always the foundation is your lifestyle and nutrition. So I always want to look at my clients. What are they consuming every day? What is their daily lifestyle around food? Are they eating enough protein? Are they feeling really full and not eating enough? There's a lot of gut balancing that can be done there, but I think making sure you're getting nutrients in and protein in is absolutely number one. So I always start with your food. Are you eating enough? But I mean, some people are vegan and vegetarian and don't want to eat those things. So they're
Mm,
not going to be getting adequate creatine in their pea protein. And that's no
mm.
problem. That's when a great opportunity is to supplement.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. We do have some vegans in Rock That Fitness, and they ask these things, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're learning that not every protein is a complete protein, and ways that they have to be particularly um, aware of what proteins have, what amino acids they're getting or not getting.
Mm-hmm.
But um, you were talking about how it affects our cells. This, to me, I'm going to geek
Mm-hmm.
out about this kind of stuff because I like this. Like, let's help our listeners. I really don't want to make this complicated and in the weeds and detailed, but I think that it's fun to discuss what's happening inside of the actual cell that actually helps us have more power from the very micro level. I think it's really cool. Can you talk about that? And let's try to, I don't know, let's just try to bring it down to layman's terms.
Okay, this is a good question.
Remember we were talking about this. I know I didn't even tell you. I was like, I just remembered about that conversation, the mitochondria, the mitochondria. So
Mm-hmm.
talk to us about this because it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, creatine is bringing ATP energy, which is what our mitochondria make, into more cells of the body. So in our gut lining, in our brain, and in our muscles. So we have more energy from this. So it is like this extra ATP you can just orally consume through your food or through the supplement. And
Yeah.
it's like this ultra boost of energy on
So
a
are you,
cellular level.
yeah. So what I want people to know, because you and I can talk about this, and we're envisioning it. We already in our
Mm-hmm.
minds, we see what the cell looks like, what's all in there, because we've done that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Studied on all the studying. But for the person who has absolutely no idea what
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about how every cell in the body has intricate parts on the inside. And one of the parts of the inside of a cell is a mitochondria. I know it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I know this is kind of like funny. It's kind of like, but it's so interesting. And I really believe that it's so, it's funny to me. I think as a nurse, when we understand what's happening on a cellular level, right? You're going to, you know what I mean? It makes everything matter more. It makes every
Mm-hmm.
food item you eat more important because food is
Mm-hmm.
medicinal. It makes
Mm-hmm.
every activity that we do that much more important. Like we really cling to the importance of taking care of our cells in our body through these
Mm-hmm.
things that we do in our lifestyle. So that mitochondria is in there. And tell us, can you explain ATP? Can you try to explain this like in a simple way? What is ATP?
It is our energy, really. It's the
Mm-hmm.
energy that our cells use to then go out and do what our cells need to be done. So all these cells have a mission and a job, and it
Yeah.
is the energy they use to go do that job.
Yeah.
And it could be in
Explain
our
the Krebs
brain.
cycle. Explain the Krebs cycle. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'll pull out my whiteboard here.
I'm kidding. But it's very fascinating and it yeah, anyway. So for our listeners who don't fully understand all that, and you don't need to, I think the bottom line is understand that your body is amazing. It is just phenomenal to me how we are walking, breathing, eating, processing. It's amazing. We are all energy, and all of this plays a role. And understanding that creatine can help you. And so let's just talk about if somebody wanted to take creatine, what would be the steps that you would recommend? First of all, you said, let's make sure that we actually are getting, proper nutrition. Make sure we're having proper nutrition because we don't want to just have supplements just to have supplements. It doesn't make any sense. You don't know what's going on. To have a baseline, you want to first have your nutrition in place. But then let's say you do have all of that and you're dealing with feeling fatigue, brain fog, whatever. This could help you. What would be a way to start taking creatine and what types? What do we need to be looking for?
Mm-hmm. So creatine monohydrate is by far the very best source of the supplement. There are a couple others that are bound with different chemical properties, and I would not recommend them because our stomach acid actually neutralizes those forms. So studies are showing the creatine monohydrate is by far still the very best. And it should be single source supplement when you're buying it from the stores. You don't want any additives or anything else. It should have one ingredient in there. And thankfully, creatine in the world of supplements is relatively affordable and actually doesn't have a flavor. So you can really
Mm-hmm.
mix it into your water or you can mix it into any protein drink. Consuming it with a carb or protein is absolutely great. It doesn't have to be by itself or anything else because if you think of it, it's like food. You eat it
Mm-hmm.
with a plate of food. And there are two ways in which it is recommended to consume it. So, as far as dosing goes, so some people recommend, especially in the world of athletics, is a loading dose and then backing down. I personally, so I guess I'll explain. A loading dose is going to be 5 grams 4 times a day. So
Wow,
it's a
that's a
lot.
lot.
That is a lot of creatine.
That
I personally
is.
Yeah, I personally don't go that route myself. And for my clients, usually my clients, I'm doing a much more gradual, just slow progression. So I say 3 to 5 grams per day. And by 28 days, you will have met your full amount. You have filled all your stores. Now it's like working. So you're not going to get the bloating. You're not going to get the swelling. Your body's no reaction. If you have a reaction, it will be much more mild than if you started pounding 30 grams per day.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah.
So just over
So,
time, like just take it.
mm-hmm,
3 to 5 grams is the recommended dosage. Taking it daily,
mm-hmm,
consistently over time,
yeah.
then it will. it'll fill up the stores. You don't need to do a loading dose. Over time, it works.
Correct.
But
Yes.
you need to be taking this. It's something that you continue to take on a daily basis. Should we take breaks from it? How long should we take it?
It's think of it like a food. So you can take breaks from it, and if you forget a day, there's no harm in it at all.
Mhm.
It's like not eating the steak that night versus eating the
Yeah.
meat every night. So
Right.
I don't think you need to take breaks from it, and I don't think you are in harm when you do take breaks. There's another study that was done, and it shows that when you use creatine consistently and then you stop taking it, there's no decrease in muscle mass. You maintain your strength. If anything, you maybe don't have the same endurance when you're in the gym
Mhm.
performing or whatever your performance is. You may notice a little difference or maybe even more just like fatigue, but research is showing that there is not a drastic change when you do stop taking it.
Yeah. And I think it's important to emphasize that this is one of the most highly studied supplements. It's also one of the most safe supplements that we can use. Our body makes this naturally, like you said in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. And it's not like some kind of magic pill where people think, oh, you're taking creatine, so that's why you are bulking up and getting stronger. No, it's not really like that. It's more like it is supplementing what your body can do for you. What your body does, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
maximizing your own power, endurance, and those kind of things. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I use it in a protocol for my clients. So I work a lot with gut healing and gut health and then hormone balancing. And so I'm using it to heal the gut lining most of the time.
You talked about this the other day, and I want to get into that because I think that's really, really important. All of this is important, but I want to talk about that. Before we do, let's talk about, can you speak to the idea of the possibility that using creatine could be damaging to the kidneys? Is that true? I think sometimes people are worried about that. Does it damage the kidneys?
So if you are a healthy person, working out, eating a normal diet or a regular diet, or it could be keto, vegetarian, or whatever, then no, it is not going to hurt you. If you have chronic kidney disease and you cannot process protein synthesis through your diet, you are already have been recommended by your physician to not consume the same amount of protein and meats that maybe you were
Right.
consuming prior. So unless you're in that category of chronic kidney disease, then no, it is
Nothing
absolutely
to worry
safe
about.
outside of that. Correct.
Yeah. That's what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
People do worry about that. Like, oh, you're saying to eat more protein, up your protein, but what about kidneys? And it's exactly that. Unless you have a pre existing kidney problem, disease, there shouldn't be, it should be safe. So yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about this idea. What you were talking about this, I think you were talking about leaky gut and how
Mm-hmm.
this creatine is a supplement that can help your gut. Can you, first of all, I've heard this term, I know a lot of us have. Can you please explain what that really means? What does it mean when we hear leaky gut or you need to improve your gut lining? Can you explain that for
Mm-hmm.
us?
Yeah. So our gut is like this plumbing within our body, mouth to anus, and there should not be large openings within there. We should have a tight, smooth, healthy lining in which, when we consume food, we break it down in our stomach and then we break it down even further in our small intestine. And we break it down so small that we are getting the amino acids from our proteins and we're getting these really small nutrients, and those can pass through the cell membrane to go give our body energy, like ATP
Mm-hmm.
we were talking.
Yeah.
So that's how we use nutrients to make energy in the body. But unfortunately, sometimes chronic stress, an unhealthy diet, a lot of chemicals in our diet, glyphosate, these forever chemicals can be very, very damaging to the junctions in our gut lining. So when that damage comes through, we start to get like, say these are the cells of your gut lining, they start to spread apart. Now there's this opening here in which things can pass by. And if that junction spreads open, we get really large particles. passing from our intestines into the body.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not good because our body is not equipped to handle and break down a large molecule like that.
Okay.
That molecule could have pathogens in it. It could be just a large protein. But regardless, the body will look at that as a foreign invader because that's absolutely
Mm.
not how it's supposed to cross through. And
Yeah.
so then we get an inflammatory response to try and kill off whatever that is. But
Wow.
with time, every time you eat, anything good or bad can cross through that membrane. It's giving our body this reactive response, and our immune system's kicking into high gear because it's got to protect the body from everything in there. And so
Yeah.
that's leaky gut, is when things are passing through that gut lining that should not be passing through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can cause
So
a
interesting.
ton of symptoms in people, like brain fog. You can have absolutely like gut, distension and bloating. Fatigue after eating is a big one. And then it can cascade into many, many more symptoms, hormone
Wow.
imbalances.
It's just it's not so simple. Like it's not this is one of those areas that I'm going to say this is not simple. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I say that, I mean it's not as simple as, just get enough protein and eat the amount of calories you need and you're fine. It isn't like that because
Mm-hmm.
it is important the quality of the food that we eat. And I'm not saying like, oh, you need to eat all, organic food. I'm not saying that like we need to get crazy about that. What I'm saying is that it is important that we are eliminating or minimizing the processed foods with all of the chemicals and things, that we're not eating that on a regular basis because it is damaging. It's very damaging to our gut. And so we can talk all day long about eating all of these healthy, wholesome foods, but if your gut is compromised, you're not going to be absorbing the nutrients and the vitamins that your body requires. So, oh my gosh, this is not
Yeah,
simple.
I know
Um,
it's not.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so important to be able to heal your gut lining, to um, maximize its benefit, how it's working, how it's processing your food. So I guess I'm really interested in this too, because not because I personally, but I know like there are clients that have problems with what you just said, like bloating,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they don't know what's going on, but for some reason they feel like food is just sitting in their stomach and they're feeling bloated. Like, what kind of symptoms do we need to look for? And I didn't even know we were going to go down this road, but I think it's really important. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to talk about this. Women having issues with the gut. And I've
Mm-hmm.
done episodes on gut health and gut biome and how we can, make it better. But I would love
Mm-hmm.
to hear you talk about this and share your expertise in this area, what you've seen in women and what seems to be some common problems and some common solutions for this.
Mm-hmm. And leaky gut is one of these things that can honestly cause so many symptoms in so many ways. And so a lot of times I'm looking at the symptoms and backtracking them from there. But a handful of them is fatigue, brain fog, not sleeping well, waking up in the morning feeling groggy, like you're just not, you don't have that like zest to your life really. Of course, you can have any digestive. It could be constipation and diarrhea. Both of those can cause and be symptoms of a leaky gut. You can feel like, man, I just ate 3 bites of food, healthy food, and I feel like so bloated, so ill. Like, what is this feeling? This is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Bloating, like I mentioned, is a really big one. Gas, a lot of, even you can go into skin rashes. That's a huge area as well. A lot of skin stuff really links back to your gut. Even mental health, people who are feeling like their moods are just labile, anxiety, depression swings can be really linked back to leaky gut as well. I mean, it's so many different things. Autoimmune, or just feeling like your immune system's always down, like I'm always getting sick, is
Mm-hmm.
another big one. But that fatigue after a meal is another big one.
So what do you think are some common reasons or common causes of having this leaky gut situation? Like what's causing this? What do we want to avoid?
Processed foods. Processed foods and seed oils definitely can cause leaky gut. And then, I mean, I really am a big fan of choosing organic foods when you can, especially there's a list that comes out every year from the EWG, and it's like your dirty 15 and your
Yeah.
clean 15.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah.
can pick and choose which things you can afford to make organic, try to choose
Yeah.
those ones that are heavily sprayed, and things that cross the membrane or that you're eating the peel to. Washing
Mhm.
your food really good is definitely helpful because a lot
Yeah.
of our food is sprayed and it's just exposed to these chemicals in agriculture and these big, big farms that we don't need in our bodies, and our body will react in an inflammatory immune sort of way. And then leaky
Yeah.
gut is just one of the many things that can happen from that.
Yeah. But particularly processed foods.
Yes.
Foods that
Mm-hmm.
just have like I tell our clients, our people
Chemicals.
like, look, if you have a whole novel of ingredients, that's probably a problem.
Yes.
You
I want you to
know?
be able to pronounce, unless you're reading like some magnesium sulfate or some sort of actual mineral,
Yeah.
that list. And it really shouldn't even have those in it. That means you're fortifying the food with all of these chemical derivatives.
Yeah.
So chemicals are a big thing. And even
Yes.
natural artificial flavors,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
have a lot of
Yeah.
chemicals too. Yeah.
And I don't want to get so crazy about that because like we say, most people, the average person, I don't want them to be like, "Oh my god, I have to do all these things," because it's really a
Mm-hmm.
process of learning. And if you're used to eating processed foods on a regular basis, let's just start eating healthy foods.
Yes.
You can get there. You can get there where you start learning more and more, and then maybe you get to the point where you are trying to be careful about your organic foods. But like, let's just get to the basics of how often are we eating these processed foods, right? You
Yes.
know, like fast foods from a restaurant every day, these kind of things, packaged foods, even your everyday protein snack bars. You got to look at the label
Mm-hmm.
on there. There's all kinds of stuff in those. I'm not saying
Lunch
like
meat.
never, but yeah, lunch meat, all of the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But one of the things that's so big and so important is stress level. I
Oh,
think
good,
this is
good.
one
Yes.
thing that, like, I always say is so huge, and it's been huge in my recovery too with
I love
different
it.
things, is
Yeah.
sit down with your meal before you eat it, take 5 deep breaths.
I'm
You
all
can
about
thank your
this.
food
Yeah.
for nourishing you and then eat it. But if we can lower our stress level, that is huge on the gut and huge with leaky gut. So don't stress about what foods, if it's exactly organic or not, or this or that. Choose, when you have choices, choose whole foods. Choose foods that you know nourish your body, things that you can pronounce and see and grapple with. And just try and find ease in that. And love and grace for your body is huge,
I'm
huge for
with
your
you on
gut.
that. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
with you on that. It's some people are just I don't know, genetically predisposed, whatever, to be very high tension, high anxiety, type A personalities. That isn't it interesting? Research has shown this, that people that live their life like that, they are the ones that tend to suffer the most with gut problems, with
Mm-hmm.
ulcers and all of that kind of stuff. And so I'm with you on this. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
have to learn how to regulate our nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, oh my gosh. Remember at BBD, that was so huge when they talked about that, when they talked about regulating your nervous system is actually like the key. It's really the key to health. I
Yeah.
bet you could speak to that for your
Mm-hmm.
own experience, from your own experience. I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering if you would like to
Absolutely.
share, because I think it's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I know in my life, I really believe, even if we're going to take this to the beginning, that I created this cancer in my body or allowed this cancer to grow in my body because I used to be quite type A. I used to be
Ooh.
very hard on myself, and it comes from my childhood, and it comes from the way that I thought I needed to be. But that was so in disalignment to my nature and to who I was really should be. And so it created this disalignment, and that just started in the gut and then surfaced out. And then eventually, you know, cancer is just a symptom. It is absolutely only a symptom of something else. And so in my experience, that's what I got. And I'm grateful I did, because it taught me and it pursued me down this path in which I am so passionate about. But yeah, I think stress is huge. And now I joke that I'm like type Z because I don't really care that much. I just go with the
That's
flow.
me.
And I think I'm so much happier and healthier because of
Yes.
it.
Yes. We can go there.
Yeah.
In fact, I think we should. We could probably really, really jam on this for a while. We might need to come back on another podcast episode for regulating the nervous system. It's something that
Big.
I know that so many women don't realize, how when we're all wired up and tense like this, how it is affecting your health and how it is impacting every cell in your body. And what you said, I think, could be a trigger for a lot of people. Like, you created that. Oh, that steps on people's toes. But
Mm-hmm.
it's science. It's
But
science.
also, if we created it, we can
We can
also
uncreate
uncreate it.
we
We
can,
can
yes.
reverse it, and we
Right.
can
We can
heal our
disassemble it.
bodies.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm all
Yep.
for this. I'm all for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
you can really, I guess just the bottom line is, for all of our listeners, all of our Rockstar ladies, just the very awareness of the idea that the more stress we are allowing into our bodies, the more
Mm-hmm.
tendencies we are going to have for conditions like in the gut and in all kinds of areas of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important for us to regulate our nervous system. And I'm all about this, Halsey, big time. We can heal our bodies when we
Mm-hmm.
do that. What kind of, do you mind? Let's end this podcast episode with, I know we talked about creatine. Now we're like in all spiritual.
Yeah.
This is the story of my life. It all
Right.
matters. Okay. It
It
all
does. Yeah,
matters.
it
Everything
does.
affects everything. So I want to talk about this for a minute. It's great. What kind of things do you do personally? It sounds like, because you have been, I understand trauma. I understand the upbringing. Me too. I have all that, and I've had counseling, and I've had therapy, and I've had to do a lot of that deep work myself and heal my own inside stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you've been there. So what have
Mm-hmm.
you learned from the person, the Halsey that used to be so uptight and created this illness, to today? What are some things that you've done in your life? What do you do on a daily basis to help you stay healthy and
Mm-hmm.
recovered from the
Mm-hmm.
illness?
A lot of gratitude. I'm
Ooh.
not a gratitude journaler. I love to journal.
Uh-huh.
It's usually honestly about the hard shit of life, though. I'm like, I gotta get this out. But so I think journaling's amazing. But I'm not a like 3 grateful things for the day. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
about everything grateful in my life,
Yes.
and I
Oh
just
man.
say it, and I'm like, the sun is
I
out.
love
Like,
it. It's
this is
real.
amazing. And
It's
it is.
amazing.
It's so I live a life of gratitude. I think that's a big one, and it's free and it's easy. And when you
Yes.
do it, your life changes. Your life, you start to see the beauty in everything.
Right.
And it's funny, my partner pointed this out the other day. He's like, I can't remember what I said, but I said something, and he's like, "Ugh, you just always see the good in things." He's like, "I don't know how you do that." And I was like, "Really?" I was like, I didn't think that was my perspective. He's like, "All the time."
That's
It
awesome.
was funny, but I was like, you're right. I am so grateful. And because I lost my health at a young age, I'm so grateful for all the
Yes.
things that I can fuel myself with to live a healthy life, and to see that our bodies really can heal, because I've been really sick. I've been very, very ill. And I've
Wow.
been able to now wake up just alive. And I literally feel like I'm thriving. And I eat good food and I nourish my body. And that's like the base of it. Gratitude, loving, self-love is huge. You know, we can have
Yes, I
a
got my
10
self-love,
step.
self-care shirt on.
I love that. We can have
That's
a
a
10,
self-care,
15 step,
self-love.
yeah,
Yeah,
morning ritual. But like, if you're stressed about doing the morning ritual, then what's the point of it?
exactly. Oh my God, that's so
Right?
funny.
Life
That's
is
cracking
meant
me
to
up.
be like enjoyable. So do the
Right.
things that bring you joy. So,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And who was it? One of our mentors, one of my mentors that says that when you feel frustration, that's the moment to turn it into appreciation. And that's basically the whole gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to insert this. I'm going to say this for the record. I'm just going to speak it out. I remember years ago, a friend of mine used to. I don't know if she was making fun of me or if she was irritated with me because she called me. She was like, "Everything is positive with you, Anna. You're like Pollyanna." And so now, when I reflect back on it, I'm like, you know what? As a matter of fact, I am. Thank you very much. This is the real me. I am Pollyanna, if you want to call me that. It's like my rebellion against, I don't have to live my life upset, angry, stressed. I am Pollyanna. It's not a toxic positivity. It is true appreciation for life and living. It's just the
I'm glad you
miracle
said
of being
that.
alive.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I'm really glad you said you're not coming from a toxic positivity, because if you have
Yes.
emotions, feel them,
Feel them.
breathe into them, process them. We're not
Process them.
saying be happy all the time. Like, that's not real. Like, really
No.
feel the
Yes.
anger, feel the things, but then
Yeah.
you feel them and you can
You
let
feel
them
them.
dissipate. And then you find the gratitude within it. What is that silver lining in that learning lesson? There always is
Yeah.
one.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, Halsey, we're
Yeah.
going to have to come back one day and
Mm-hmm.
talk about
Yeah,
some
this
of
was
this
good.
stuff. This is, yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
creatine, that's all right. But let's talk about what
Yeah.
really matters.
Yeah. It's a great
Well,
supplement, really is. But
yes. From creatine to spirituality.
I know, to deep life
Nah.
lessons.
It is. It's so good. I appreciate your time today. We've been here talking for quite some time, so I'm going to definitely let you go. But to all of our listeners, I really do hope that there was some, nugget of scientific truth, but anything that you could have gotten out of what we talked about today. Is there any last minute things you want to say, Halsey, about creatine, about women's health?
You know, I think if you've been questioning it and you're wondering, it's a really safe and relatively affordable supplement to add in. And I say go for it. Try it 5 grams a day, every day if you can. If not, again, there's no stress in missing days, but 5 grams a day, you're probably going to start noticing some effects. And one really cool study, it was shown to be more effective, creatine, than an SSRI for mood
Oh,
enhancing.
yeah. Tell people what
Mm-hmm.
an SSRI is because they don't know. Some people
It's an
don't know.
antidepressant type of medication. So it's a
Okay.
serotonin reuptake inhibitor,
All right.
antidepressant. So
Awesome.
pretty impressive.
Yes, it is very impressive. And so, with that, Halsey, where can our listeners find you, and are they welcome to reach out to you if they have any questions? And yeah, where can they find you?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So my name is Halsie Peek. I'll spell it. It's HALSIEPEEK. And my business is Peak Wellness, based off my last name. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Peak Wellness. And my website is halseypeek.com. And absolutely reach out. I'm available for questions, people just curious about their health. I do a lot of gut health, rebalancing, resetting. We can do deep lab testing, but we also do just the basic pillars of living your mind, body, and soul to have a lifestyle that's congruent with what you're wanting. So I
Yeah.
do also hormone balancing and some good stuff.
Who do you serve? Who's your target client that you typically serve?
Usually women who are dealing with these vague symptoms they can't figure out. I do a lot of gut testing and gut healing, because a lot of
Okay.
those vague things really stem back to the gut. I'm also working with a lot of women doing hormone like cycle syncing, and
Oh,
that's a
okay.
really fun thing.
Yeah.
So that's a little more like perimenopausal and
Mhm.
before that. But cycle syncing is great because it really, again, stress can totally derail your female cycle.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
learning how to work with it, not against it.
Yes, yes, it's a big thing. Well, Halsey, thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much. Really can't thank you enough for your time today. This has been so fun. We'll have to get together again.
Yeah, this
Appreciate
was great.
you. All right, thanks, and have a great day. Don't leave. I'm gonna stop this. Don't leave. Everybody, y'all rock on.